Daniel Jeremiah, my draft compadre, who will be sitting next to me in Cleveland, Ohio for an insane amount of time at the end of next month, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show, fresh off of calling the Zach Wilson Pro Day live on NFL Network on Friday. How are you, DJ?
I'm doing great, Rich. Are you refreshed? Are you ready for this stretch run we're headed towards?
I am not cramping. How does that sound? I don't plan on cramping. I plan on being fully hydrated and getting ready to go, literally and figuratively. My run is going to happen next month. I've got a caper I'm trying to pull off to make it as special as ever. So that's coming down the pike too. I'm ready.
I'm ready. I can't wait to learn of the details.
Yeah, it will be coming. And in the meantime, so did somebody get in your ear, if you will, during the pro day, say you have no idea what just happened, or do you have any idea what was happening? You're looking down at your phone during Zach Wilson's pro day, knowing that everything had been sort of turned upside down, in a way.
So I heard from a little birdie that morning that something was going to happen. So I knew that there was going to be a trade. It was going to involve somebody moving up. I didn't know who it was, but I kind of was on alert. So I was one of those deals, and you've been there, Rich, where you're on air and you've got your computer and you're just hitting, refresh,
right.
And just hoping that it's going to happen during this 2-hour window where we're on, because there's nothing more fun. And so, boom, this thing happens, and so you digest it while you're watching Zach, warm up. And then just as you're starting to get comfortable with that, Rhett is talking as the host, and so he's watching Zach throw.
Yep.
He's talking about this trade with Miami and San Francisco, and I'm on my computer, and all of a sudden I see it come across from the Eagles' official account that they've just moved back from 6 to 12. And so it was one of those deals you're like, it says blue check mark, but like you're clicking on it, making sure like this is not, I'm not getting, screwed on this thing. So while Rhett's talking, I turn around my laptop, Rich, because we're sitting far apart, with the way things are.
Yep.
And I'm trying to slide my laptop across the table so that he can see that this Eagles trade has happened. And so he ended up breaking that, just reading that right off the laptop, and off we went. It was fun, man.
Well, it sure looks like, speaking of refresh, San Francisco hit refresh. So let's start there, because when trades like this happen, clearly we can't put names to fill in the blanks yet, but we can guess. What do you make of San Francisco moving up to 3, and for who, Daniel Jeremiah?
Well, I definitely think they felt like they needed better than Jimmy Garoppolo to make such a aggressive, costly move with what they gave up to go up to 3. And they obviously have a love of 3 quarterbacks. So let's assume, as most do, that Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are 2 of the 3 that they are excited about. We try and figure out who that third guy is. And when it happened immediately, my mind went to Trey Lance as somebody that I thought would be a fun fit there. And I'm thinking Trey Lance versus Justin Fields. I can make a case Justin Fields would be an exciting pick there. So I'm processing, and I'm thinking, well, wait a second. Trey Lance has already had his pro day. And I had heard, you hear all these stories behind the scenes, but I had heard, look, the Niners didn't send their decision makers to North Dakota State for that pro day because they want to kind of lay in the weeds on Trey Lance, but that's why they did that. But you're going to get the video of the pro day. They'll see everything. But I'm like, okay, Trey Lance's pro day's already happened, so they could be kind of towards the finish line of his evaluation and have the conviction to make a trade like this. Justin Fields hasn't had his pro day yet. So if you were going to trade up with him in mind, I would think you'd want to wait until his pro day just to make sure he's healthy and throwing the ball fine, and give you a little more comfort to make that type of a bold move. So I'm like, okay, I'm leaning towards Trey Lance. Then you talk to people in the know around the league, Rich, and they're like, I'm telling you, this is for the Bama quarterback. This is not Trey Lance or Justin Fields. This is for Mac Jones. So and I heard it from a lot of people, and I think, look, when you see Chris Sims as well, and it's easy to connect the dots with him and Kyle and their friendship that he kind of hopped aboard that train. That's kind of where we are.
Well, I mean, yeah. Okay. If it's Mac Jones, I imagine the Niners decided sitting at where they were wasn't good enough, right? Like sitting at 12 wasn't good enough for Mac Jones. They weren't going to risk it. They could have maybe moved up. I guess they figure that Mac Jones could be gone at 4, and for Atlanta, like so. And I understand that draft boards change clearly between now and at the end of April, but they caught wind like, you know what, we can't run the risk that Arthur Smith's going to love Mac Jones as much as he thinks he's his Tannehill or something like that, and we got to go to 3, right? I mean, what do you think?
My take on it, Rich, is 2 parts. Number one, it's John Lynch is there, but Kyle has the juice, right? So Kyle, and when you have coaches that have the power on decisions like these, a lot of times they're not as worried about the cost as much as they're worried about getting their guy. And the extreme example is, look what happened in Houston with Bill O'Brien. You just say, I want Laramie Tunsil, get him. I don't care what it costs, just go get him. And then on the other hand, you have an asset in Hopkins, which if you canvass the league and feel out the market and the value, you'd say, okay, man, he's probably worth a lot more than Arizona just offered us. But no, we're going to move on from him, so just trade him, get rid of him. But I think that's what happens sometimes with coach-run decisions, that they can maybe not care so much about what the market says, just determined, I like this guy, I'm going to go get him. And the other thing I would say is, in talking to people during the time of the Senior Bowl, the fact that Tepper was down there as an owner, which you rarely see, and going back to the days when you were calling that game, Rich, remember seeing owners on the sideline at the Senior Bowl.
Right.
Even though Mac Jones didn't play in the game, it was kind of widely thought that he was going down there to be around Mac, that would be a play for them potentially at number 8. And the last thing you want to do, if you really think that that's the answer, you don't want to get in a bidding war with a team that has a higher pick than you, because you're going to lose.
You're referring to David Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers. I've got Daniel Jeremiah here on the Rich Eisen Show. Stands to reason they knocked on the Jets' door first, though, right? Daniel, what do you think?
I don't know that is the case. I think that's been assumed. I don't know that to be a fact.
Okay, so then let's get out of the news and information business and get back into the evaluation business. The tea leaves are that the Jets clearly are going to take Zach Wilson now, right? I mean, because you have to assume, and I know what assuming really means potentially, but you have to assume that the organization that used a 3rd-round pick in the trade with Miami, that they got because they lost Robert Saleh to the Jets to be their head coach, that they would at least have the knock on the door to make sure that they're doing their due diligence just in case the Jets go out. I mean, the odds that Joe Douglas calls up, John Lynch, say, what gives? We could have done something. You know what I mean? Like, it just, while they're standing watching Zach Wilson light it up in his pro day, this means that it's Zach Wilson to the Jets, right?
Well, I mean, I think we've been talking about this since January, and it was my opinion that Zach Wilson was going to be the 2nd pick in January and March 29th, and I'll be shocked if he isn't the pick with the Jets at 2. I would be shocked.
What do you look like to you in person?
It was fun to watch, man. It was really fun. Look, to me, pro days, Rich, you don't want to make more of them than they are. I get that, but to me, you can accomplish 2 things in a pro day. Number one, you can fill in the gaps from things we didn't get a chance to see you do. So maybe you're in an offense where they don't throw the ball down the field. Maybe there's not as many drive throws. Maybe, as Mac Jones tried to do at his pro day, he didn't move around a lot. So they try and feature some movement. So that's one thing, just fill in the gaps. The other thing you can accomplish is you can show off. Like, it's show and tell, right? Look at all the stuff I can do. Well, when you look at Zach, I've seen him do everything on the video. I've seen him make every type of throw, on schedule, off schedule, on the move, right, left, power throws, touch throws, deep balls. I've seen him do all that. So he didn't really have any gaps to fill in. So it basically set this up to be just kind of a show-off session, and it was fun to watch. I enjoyed the heck out of it. I think hopefully people could feel that from me watching it. It was fun, man. Anytime you watch somebody that's great at something, it'd be like if you're watching Steph Curry just go out and shoot a bunch of threes. I enjoyed it. I don't get the people that are cynical and don't want to enjoy something like that. It was fun. It was fun for me.
Well, I mean, that throw where he drifted to his left, and
it's ridiculous.
I think you were busy, going about down the road of BYU versus Coastal Carolina, and you had to sort of stop your story, and go, oh my God, that was ridiculous. I mean, that went viral. I mean, that got picked up everywhere, and we saw all that. But, that said, when you say that Pro Day is set up to have a kid show off his skills and talents and just have a little bit of fun like that, Ryan Day is going to set up stuff like that for Justin Fields, right? Or Justin Fields people will do that, and his Pro Day is Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. How might that shuffle things up, do you think?
Well, there's the old phrase, right? I'll have my people call your people. Well, right. Justin and Zach had the same people. John Beck, who ran the Zach Wilson Pro Day, is going to be running the Justin Fields Pro Day
there you
tomorrow.
Go.
So I talked to him this morning, and you'll see a lot of similar things. He's going to chance to show off himself.
So now that we've decided, Daniel Jeremiah here on the Rich Eisen Show, now that we've dissected the big move from 12 to 3 49ers Dolphins trade, what did you make of the Dolphins moving up to 6 and the Eagles moving down to 12? What are your thoughts on that, Daniel Jeremiah?
Well, I think a couple things on the Dolphins that they accomplished. Number one, where they ultimately ended up is in position to get a premier target, right? Whether that's Pitts or Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith or Waddle. However, those are the big 4 targets. They're going to be able to get a big-time weapon to help evaluate Tua. So that accomplished that. The other thing it accomplished is they accumulated some more tokens, I guess you could say, in drafts beyond this one, which will leave them some flexibility with the whole Deshaun Watson situation. Because if we were looking at this a week ago, we'd say, man, I don't know that anything can happen with Deshaun Watson given the current circumstances. And if you look at the Dolphins, if they are going to be able to come together with Houston on a trade, the majority of their chips are in this draft. So once we get past this draft, it's hard to match them up for a trade because the Dolphins just don't have as many assets as you would need. And so now what they've done is they've collected another first-round pick in next year's draft. They've given themselves flexibility to extend this, to allow this thing with Deshaun Watson to play out, so that once this 21 draft ends, their opportunity for Deshaun Watson does not expire. They can play the long game here.
Because I thought this would mean that they're in on Tua, right?
I think it gives them an opportunity with what they've done to not select in the draft a replacement for Tua, but to support him where we can potentially look at him with more weapons, which gives us an evaluation. But I also think if this thing with Deshaun Watson were to clear up and it clears up over the summer, they have the chips in place to make that trade right then and there.
Because they've gotten more draft capital down the line.
Future picks. Yeah.
Oh, my word. So what about the Eagles? As you know, people in Philadelphia are kind of like, well, we could have had one of those top playmakers that you mentioned, those 4 playmakers for Jalen Hurts. And instead, they moved down and they put more capital into next year's draft, in which they could wind up with 3 number 1 3 first-round draft choices. What do you make of Philadelphia's maneuvering?
I think it was pretty smart because I believe when you look at the needs of the roster, to me, I think everybody's assuming they're going to go get a player to surround and properly evaluate Jalen Hurts. And if they would have stuck at 6, I had made the strong case. You take Kyle Pitts if he's there. He's the best player. He's going to be the best player available. You take him. But what they've done is they've kind of couched everything here and said, okay, we're going to go back to 12. To me, it points to either the best pass rusher or the best corner. That's where the value is, where they're picking there at 12. And then they have, like you said, 3 ones potentially next year. So you're going to get a look-see here at Jalen Hurts for a year with a full off season and a full training camp, preseason, all that stuff. You're going to get a chance to evaluate him. And if for some reason if it goes well, man, you're loaded with ammunition to build around him next year. And if it doesn't go well, you're loaded with ammunition to go find another quarterback. So That's what that looks like to me from the outside.
Okay, am I missing anything? Is there another domino or ripple in this pond, domino that tumbled with this trade on Friday? Again, you kind of threw me for one with saying, how the Dolphins amassed more picks in the coming years gives them flexibility to wait out what happens with Deshaun Watson in Houston, that now suddenly maybe the draft isn't a deadline, a go or no go for Houston and Deshaun Watson, that it could now be training camp potentially because the Dolphins now have the same package that could have been delivered to Houston before the draft. They have that before this season for next year's drafts. You kind of threw me for one right there. Is there anything else we're not seeing, we're not thinking of right here?
Well, I'd like to contribute at least one topic for a follow-up segment on the Rich Eisen Show when I come on, Rich. I'm just being a good friend.
It seems like there's definitely going to be an endless pit of stuff to talk about for this draft. But I'm just wondering if there are anything, that Jimmy G, I guess, is potentially going to be the guy. Unless they take Mac Jones, he would be the most, I would think, pro-ready because he played at Alabama and he's got more reps at it than Justin Fields and Trey Lance, right? I mean, what do you think of that?
Yeah,
DJ?
It's interesting because Steve Wyche, the great Steve Wyche, after this came down, he was there, so he went up and talked to Kyle Shanahan and came right back on the air and said, look, Kyle said Jimmy's a part of our plan. So when I heard that, I thought, well, if Jimmy's a part of your plan, then that points to, Trey Lance or Justin Fields, because you don't have to play those guys right away. They might not be ready right now. Whereas Mac, the feeling is that he'd be ready to step in and play, and having Mac and having Jimmy on the same team doesn't make any sense. So that threw me for a loop. But then there's also, what is Kyle going to say? Jimmy's still on the team, so you kind of.
He hadn't spoken to him yet either. I guess he spoke to him on Friday after the pro day. It seems like. Yeah, so
I don't know what you could say otherwise there. So it's still it's going to be fascinating. I think we think we know what's going to happen there, but you never know. And then it gets to Atlanta, where everybody has said, or I shouldn't say everybody, a lot of people have said, well, they with this Mac Ryan deal, they really are kind of into him now for a couple more years. With the salary cap, but I've talked to a couple general managers that said, look, they had to do that to get under the salary cap. They didn't have a choice. So I would not rule out a quarterback there, and he wouldn't have to play right away, which, again, when you look at Trey Lance and Justin Fields, could be a perfect situation for them to sit behind Matt Ryan for a minute. So I wouldn't rule them out. And then, to me, the quarterback domino that's left is Sam Darnold, and I look at Carolina and I look at Denver as two teams who have kind of let it be known that they're in the quarterback business. So, does Sam go to one of those teams? And if he, the team that doesn't get him, does that motivate them to try and move up? Because if Mac goes 3, Rich, now we're talking about there's a real chance we could go, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, or if the Bengals get out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with quarterbacks, it's gonna be nuts.
Yeah, and then the Panthers and the Broncos choose 8 and 9. And this is gonna be my 17th draft that I host for NFL Network, and through the years with Mayock and you, I've picked up a couple things. Certainly lately, late in the latest draft for it, the drafting of Kyler Murray, and I'm sitting there wondering why is Rosen still on the team? And, you say to me during a commercial break, you can't trade the guy until you have the other guy in hand. And Mayock was just telling me the same thing for all those years, but I got caught up in the whole Rosen of it all, and he got traded the next night. Is it possible then, Daniel, that the Jets draft Zach Wilson second, and while the clock is moving towards 8 and 9 overall for the Panthers and Broncos, that Darnold gets moved in that interim period? DJ.
I think that this is what a great friendship is all about. I feel like I delivered you a little present, and I feel like in turn you have delivered me one, because I didn't really think about that from the standpoint of waiting until they're on the clock. So I'm going to write that one down, file it away.
There you go.
I'm going to claim it as my own.
Do it
when I'm on path to the draft later this afternoon.
Do it, because I'm trying to figure out what's the mechanics of this for Joe Douglas to make as much hay as he possibly can with a quarterback that the rest of the league knows he's got to unload. Well,
I think there's what is it, eBay that has a buy now price?
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes.
So you get the buy now price from a team that you love, you take it right now. If you don't have your buy now price, then it's a bid, and we wait till we get to the draft and let it play out.
And then you treat like Zach Wilson to mix sports like Andre Drummond. You just remove him from society and put him in bubble wrap and say you don't do a damn thing until the draft hits, right? I mean, right? Pretty much.
Yeah. You're always. I mean, if you do a deal right now, again, there's always risk with everything. So you got to hope that Zach Wilson is on his couch and just taking care of himself.
Yes, and looks both ways before crossing a street, and just basically Netflix and chill, man. You know,
That's
as
it.
much as
Just
somebody
make sure,
from BYU could.
Yeah, if you're going to go for a jog, make sure the headband does not come down over your eyes. Keep that thing up on your head there. DJ, thanks for the call. Really appreciate it. When's the Move the Sticks with you and Bucky Brooks coming out to discuss all this? Yeah, we just had a fun chat about it, so it should be coming out any time now. So be on the lookout for that later today.
Okay, let's do that. DJ, thanks for the call. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
You got it. And get Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks' Move the Sticks podcast for more on that. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.